but I want to welcome everybody to the iRATE webinar presented by the Arkansas Foundation for Medical Care, also known as AFMC, and the Health Insurance Rate Review Division of the Arkansas Insurance Department. My name is Neil Martin, and I'm with AFMC, and I'm the project manager for the development of the iRATE application. In the room with me today is Lowell Nicholas, Deputy Commissioner of the Arkansas Insurance Department, Bob Alexander, Managing Attorney with the Health Insurance Rate Review Division of the Arkansas Insurance Department, Dave Dillon, Vice President and Principal Consulting Actuary with Lewis & Ellis, and Sven Way from AFMC. Sven is the lead developer, has been the lead developer on this project. Also with us is Lisa Carter from the Arkansas Insurance Department. She'll be monitoring and facilitating the question and answer session at the end of the presentation. Before we begin, I want to stop and let Lowell Nicholas say a few words. Lowell was the visionary for the application that you see today. His leadership and his guidance in this process has been instrumental as we've moved through each phase. So I want him to say a few words at the outset of our presentation. So Lowell.
Gee, it's hard to follow an introduction like that. Welcome to sunny Little Rock, Arkansas, where we're producing this. And all I would like to do is just take a short moment to thank some folks who've been instrumental in all this, and start out with SOCIO, Doug Pennington and Sarah Norman, and SOCIO has been very supportive of us from the word go. SURF, Julie Fritz and Thea Cook, and of course Dave Dillon with L&E. Also locally here, I want to thank Rosalind Miner and Donna Lambert and Bob Alexander, who have all been very instrumental in helping with this. But most of all, I'd like to thank AFMC, who have been just great to work with and very professional. We are now coming up on our second anniversary of the origination of this idea. So we hope you will enjoy the demonstration today, and we have recorded it so that you can come back to it and view it as many times as you like. Thank you very much.
All right, Lowell, thank you very much. This is Neil again. We are excited to demonstrate the application, the iRATE application with you today, and I know you'll be pleased with what you see. There's been a lot of work that's gone on in the development of the application, and this work continues today as we are still adding functionality to the application. And we want to thank you for taking time out of your day today to attend the webinar. I think a few folks have already been a part of some of the information sessions related to iRATE. I know that Sven and myself were at the plan management the plan management seminar in Houston, and I think Bob Alexander has presented a couple times in DC and also in Kansas City a few months back. So some of you folks have seen iRATE and seen bits and pieces of it, but today we're gonna show you everything that's available up to this point. Before we begin looking at the application, I want to go over some housekeeping information. First off, like Lowell said, the meeting is being recorded and it will be provided later. I want to mention that everyone is muted right now, and that's being controlled by Lisa here in Little Rock. There'll be a time for questions at the end of the demonstration, and those interested in asking a question will be unmuted so they can speak to the entire group. At the top of your screen, you'll see the WebEx menu bar, and that looks similar to what you see on your screen now. You might have to move your mouse to the top center of your screen to expose the WebEx menu bar. On the menu bar, please pay special attention to the participant button and the chat button. These two buttons are the two methods of asking questions in the Q&A. When the Q&A session begins, please raise your hand. To do that, you're going to locate the participant button and click the small hand, and we've highlighted it there on your screen. This will alert us that you have a question. We will verbally notify you that your question is ready to be asked, and we'll unmute you so you can ask your question. Make sure that you are not on mute at your location. After your question is answered, you'll be placed back on mute again so someone else will have the opportunity to ask a question. If you would prefer to use the chat feature, you can definitely do that. Any questions asked using the chat feature will also be addressed at the QA session at the end of the demonstration. And when sending your question, be sure that you have selected the Send to Host button selected. So with that, the housekeeping information out of the way, let's go ahead and get started with the application. iRATE is short for the Insurance Rate Analysis and Tracking Engine. It's a web-based tool that presents data in a manner that is simple, customizable, and easy to understand. The result of iRATE is a simpler and more accurate rate review process. There are a few prerequisites for using iRATE. First, your state needs an active subscription to SURF. You need Microsoft Internet Explorer 8 or higher, and also Microsoft Excel. So let's go ahead and we will jump to the application. You should be able to see it on your screen now. Basically what you see now is your home screen. This is where the review process begins. And we're under the Filings tab and under Open Filings. So everything you see here are all open filings for your department or state. And you can see there's certain information available to you immediately when you bring up iRATE and as it relates to each one of these filings. You can see SURF tracking number, you can see company name, you can see TOI, sub-TOI, you can see who the reviewer is and the different statuses that are available to you. With this view, you can quickly see the requested overall rate impact, and also the current status of the filing. I do want to make one mention here. You see a deemer date, and that deemer date is a calculated field, and it's initially calculated 30 days from the submitted date, and it's automatically recalculated upon objection. So I wanted to point out deemer date to you. Each one of the columns that you see here can be sorted and grouped based on your needs, and we'll show the sorting and grouping a little bit later in the demo. You'll also notice settings that are at the bottom of the screen, and these settings that you see are specific to the Arkansas Insurance Department, and I also want to point that out. Everything that you see today is specific to the AID. So some of these things can be customized or changed, but we're looking at AID-specific variables and settings. Currently, the AID has 3 specific settings for their needs. There's minimum loss ratio, max overall rate impact, and days until deemed approved. These settings can be adjusted in the maintenance section of the application, and we will be reviewing that a little later as well. The values of each setting provide a visual cue to the user if something might require further review. For example, let's just look at minimum loss ratio. It's currently set at 80%. For the AID, anything over 80% is considered good, so the color of that cell will be green. Anything under 80% needs further review, so that cell color is red. And you'll see that as we go through as you look at each one of those settings, it's similar to the red and the green colors stay the same throughout. Next thing I want to do is go into the search filings. And with search filings, you can see you've got several different criteria: start date, company, or start and end date, company, TOI, and sub-TOI. You can change these values to match certain criteria. Right now, it defaults to a start date of a year, so a year from today. So you enter a date range, but all the other settings are optional. If you click on the calendar icon next to one of the dates, and let's say we wanted to move the start date back, you can use the arrows. The single arrow will toggle you back 1 month. The double arrow will toggle you back 3 months. But if you needed to go back a lot farther than that, you just click on the date. So you can see we click on June 2012, and up pops year and month. So if you wanted to go back 3 years to June of 2010, you can select that, and it will. You can go see a longer date range. So what we want to do, we're going to change that from Arkansas Blue Cross Blue Shield, and we're going to change that to Celtic, and we're going to see what Celtic looks like from a 3-year and a 1-year perspective, so you can see it as it adjusts. So that's a 3-year time period, and you can see all the filings there. Now, if you look, all of these filings are closed. Down there at the bottom, the only show closed filings is selected. But now we want to adjust our time frame and have this start a year from now. So Sven's going to go back and change our time frame to 6/1 of 2012, and you'll see that our list of filings drops significantly for Celtic as he goes and changes Celtic there. There we go. So you can see it dropped considerably from 3 years to 5 years. So you can always go back and get historical information as far back as you need to go. So let's go back to the open filing selection. We're going to go back to the home screen by clicking you can click the open filings, or you can also click the iRATE logo. That'll take you back home. So I want to go ahead and we're going to dig into one of our filings, and Ben is going to click on this filing here, this 8518 filing, and we're going to go into it and look at the different pieces of each individual filing. The first thing I want to point out across the top of the application is the ribbon. The ribbon contains useful information about the review, and it always stays at the top of the screen after the filing is selected. So no matter where you go, no matter what tab you click on after this, you'll be able to keep this ribbon information available to you. The ribbon contains 3 tabs. There's the Filing tab, which you see right now, the Company tab, and the Contact tab. The Filing tab is the tab with the most important information, or the most information related to the filing. So we're going to look at the Filing tab real quick. The Filing tab has 4 sections. You've got the Filing Information section, Overall Rate Impact section, Overall Company Rate, and also the Rate Review Detail. The Filing Information section contains basic information about the filing, such as the service tracking number, status, TOI, sub-TOI, among other values. The Overall Rate Impact section contains information about the requested overall rate impact, the type, size, and the effective date of the rate filing overall company rate, or of the rate filing. The Overall Company Rate section shows policyholders and covered lives. And then finally, the Rate Review Detail section shows per member, per month, prior, and requested rates. One thing that I do want to point out is loss ratio. You can see loss ratio up by the cursor on the screen. This loss ratio is a calculated field based on total premium and incurred claims. I do want to point out this is not MLR. MLR is a future enhancement, and we'll discuss future enhancement later, but this particular value is loss ratio, and it's based on those total premiums and incurred claims. Moving over to the Company tab, information contained here shows certain information about the company. You can see the NAIC number, you can see the address, city, state, zip, things like that. And finally, the Contact tab shows you the actual contact for this particular filing. So if you needed to get hold of anybody related to a filing, you can always see their email address, phone number, things like that. Let's move further down the screen and go deeper into this filing that we've selected, and we'll have additional review. We'll go over the additional review information related to this. So next to as I'm working down the screen, after the ribbon, we were on the Filings tab, but now we're on the Rate Analysis tab. When you click Rate Analysis, when you click the Rate Analysis tab, you will see 2 sub-tabs, Historical Analysis and the Unified Rate Review Template. So we're going to look at the Historical Analysis tab first. One of the key strengths of iRATE is the ability to see multiple filings at the same time for comparison purposes. At the top, what you're going to see is trend factor, and I want to mention a word of warning on trend factor. It is a value that's populated in SURF, but from our experience, it is not consistently populated. However, it does contain valuable information that can be used during the review. Additional filings, or the filing information displayed in the Historical Analysis section, have the same TOI and sub-TOI as the filing that we have selected on the previous screen. And first off, you can see the filing that we have selected is highlighted in gold. And in the historical company filings section, we're looking at filings with the same TOI and sub-TOI for the selected company. That information is displayed. Also, the historical trend down a little farther shows filings with the same TOI and sub-TOI, but this information is across the industry. So at the top, we're only looking within that company. At the bottom, we're looking all across the industry. With each one of these values, you see that the default time frame is set to 3 years. That can also be adjusted like we saw earlier. You can move it back a few months. You can move it back a certain number of years. So however you would like to do that. But you can expand or contract the time frame by clicking on the calendar icon. I mentioned earlier about sorting and grouping, and I want to show that now. We're still under the historical trends section, and we'll be able to show how sorting will allow you to be able to view information a different way and give you a better perspective of the data that you're looking at. Sorting's pretty simple. What you're going to do is just click the column header, then you're going to use the arrow to sort by ascending or descending order. It starts by being sorted by submission date, but you can go and you can click another heading and it'll sort by that value if need be. So as you can see now, we've sorted by requested overall rate impact, and it's descending. If you click it again, it'll sort ascending. And all of these column headers can be sorted, but they can only sort them one at a time. Now, grouping allows you a little more flexibility, and it allows you even better view of the data. To group, you simply drag a column to the defined area. So what we're going to do, we're going to group by state status first. So we're going to take state status, and we're going to click it, and we're going to drag it up to the defined area, and you're going to see now we're grouped by state status there. Next, we're going to add company name to this grouping. And as you drag it up, you can now see we're grouped by state status and company name, both groups. You can switch the sort priority of each one of those, so I can move company name in front, and it'll change my grouping. And if you no longer want to group by one of these, simply drag it back down to the header. And now we're only grouped by company name, and then we can also remove company name. And we're back to the values that we had when we started. And you also saw that as you remove one, the other grouping stays intact. Now, let's say you wanted to perform additional analysis on any of this data. You can take this data in either the historical company filings or the historical trend section, and you can import it to Excel. So you can see the Export to Excel button over there, or it's highlighted on your screen. If you need to perform additional calculations on any of the data, if you need to export this data to an internal database, having it in an Excel spreadsheet allows for much more ease of use. So that is key functionality that we've put into the application to make it work for you. Next, I want to move over to the Unified Rate Review Template section or subtab, and I want to turn that over to Dave Dillon, who's going to go into a little more detail about the information contained in that section. So, Dave, if you could explain this for us.
Sure. Thanks, Neil. One thing, the visual here will be different depending on your monitor or computer setup. Right now, you can see that this is a left to right setup. If you get iRATE on your system, it could be top down. What this is set up as of right now is, think of this as the two tabs within the URRT. The information on the left side of the screen is the summary of the information in tab 1 of the URRT, the market level data. The right side of the screen is a summary of the information presented at the plan level. The monitor here is set up to do it left or right, again, depending on your system and how iRATE is implemented on your monitor. The second tab could be below the top tab. One thing I also want to point out as well is we thought it was important to show actual submitted URRT, real live data that has been submitted to the department. One thing to note, though, however, the AID has a deadline of June 30th for their submissions. So there has been a limited amount of submissions of real life cases, but we wanted to go ahead and show you some of this. So there has not been a whole lot of URRT submitted to the department, and there has not been a whole lot of editing and auditing of these submissions yet due to the last week is this week. So let's start with the left side. Again, we have tried to clean up and summarize the information that is available within the URRT, and the first section is just the PM. Now, one thing I want to highlight here is one of the things we have done to kind of simplify for the reviewer is most of the reviewers, I think, really care. We have focused more on the PM aspects of the submission, and we have not focused as much on the aggregate or dollar amount entries. There are some places where we do focus on the aggregate amounts, but as you can see here, we are focusing on the PM. Makes for a little cleaner and easier comparison. You can see these are just the same entries from the URRT for the experience period. The section 2, we've got the allowed claims and the projection. If there's experience, we will show an example here after this one of one that does not have experience. But if the issuer has experience, and here's the projection periods, we've cleaned up this table so you can quickly look at the values for the morbidity adjustments, the annualized trend factors, and so forth by the benefit category. One thing we've kind of just moved around a little bit, as you can see, we've got the final PM here. We have the projections before credibility adjustment. We have the number at the bottom, the 406. And then we have the credibility manual. And then we've kind of moved the credibility to its own little line item a little bit to the left and down. You can see where we have the assumed level of credibility. So it really highlights and pops out to you how much credibility they assumed with their experience. So in this case, they've entered some experience, but they're not using it in projecting forward. So again, this section 3 is focusing on the PM amounts in the market level projection. And this is really the first part of this is just kind of walking through, like the URRT does, step by step, the projected allowed cost, the paid to allowed ratio, and the risk adjustments, and so forth. One thing so it shows the step by step, like the URRT, down to the single risk pool gross premium average rate of the 421. And we've made some slight modifications just for ease of viewing. We've kind of separated out and moved the percent increase over the experience period and the annualized. So it's a little clear that this is the increase of the average premium rate versus the experience. So here is showing the aggregate and the annualized number. And then below, we are showing the index rate for the projection period that they have entered. And then one thing we have added is we have entered, are calculating the change in the index rate. So as you know, that not everyone, at this time, they don't have to enter an index rate for the experience period, but if they did, this will automatically calculate the change in the index rate. If they did not enter the experience index rate, this would say NA, and it would not be calculated. So we'll move over to the right side of the screen in this illustration, and the graph is showing the historical rate increases. So for a quick look, you get an idea of what the average annual average rate changes have been, and it breaks it down by the product name. And then right below that, so it shows you the numerical values that are attached to that graph. The next thing that we have highlighted, we thought it would be informative to quickly summarize the number of plans by metal tier. And so you can get a quick look of what this carrier's approach is, how many golds, how many silvers, so you can kind of get a sense of what their approach is. Now, one of the things I caveated at the beginning of this was the lack of the number of actual URRTs that have been submitted and let's say corrected in all places. As you can see, some of this information in the next few sections that was pulled from URRT were not entered, and that's why that you will see these zeros. But if the URRT in the projection, all of this stuff is pulled directly from the URRT. So that's one thing to consider. If it's not pulled, if they did not enter the URRT correctly, you would need to ask for a resubmission of that URRT, which you're probably going to do anyway, and then that would help with the iRATE for the analysis. What we have done here with the components of the premium increase, we have combined just for this initial analysis, your initial look at this data. We have combined the medical and the prescription component into one number here. But again, that is a calculation of the subcomponents from the URRT. Then we have let the other components flow through from that section. Then what we've done here for section 3 and 4 is we've put them side by side rather than on top of each other. We thought this would be a little easier and clear to see what's going on. So we've got the PMPM and the premium amounts. So we have the premium section, the claim section, and we've got the warning alerts that clarify if maybe there's a red flag for you to focus on after your initial look at this data. So I think that's everything from the URRT. So again, try to put tab 1 on the left, have the second tab on the right, and summarize those accordingly. Neil?
Thanks, Dave. The next piece that I want to cover is the reviewer checklist/forms and maintenance. With the checklist and forms feature, we want to allow each state or territory the ability to capture additional data with each filing they review. For this example, the AID had business rules, or certain business rules, and needed to capture this information with each filing. Needs will be different for every state or territory, and these lists give you the ability to customize the application to capture any information you might need. The AID has 2 checklists, the rate summary worksheet and the Part 3 checklist that you see on your screen, and also the Commissioner Summary Form. The information that's captured in each one of these lists or forms is saved with each filing. Clicking on one of the lists will open up the list and allow the reviewer to enter the information required, so you can see those values there and the information that could be entered. Notice, or one thing that I do want to point out is the list displays in a separate window. So if, as a reviewer, you're reviewing a filing and you need to see data, or you need to capture data from this list or enter data from this list, but you also want to see data from the iRATE application or another application you can have multiple windows open at the same time. So once you click on one of the forms to open it up, you can also click on the list name again, and that will close it back, kind of accordion style. And we want to show you how easy it is to modify one of these lists. So as business needs change or as rules change, we'll show you how easy it is to modify this list to be able to capture additional information. So what we're going to do, we're going to close the custom list, we have closed the custom list section, and we're going to open up the maintenance window. Then we're going to click on the Manage Checklist Forms. So it's easy to add a new checklist. Now we've done some pre-work here, so you can see on your screen we've got that the demo checklist there. So we've done that work ahead of time. So what we're going to do is go over to the right, click Edit, and make this one active. And once we make it active, we're going to update it. And so now when you close this out, you would be able to go back in the checklist and be able to see that demo is highlighted there. We've also, added ahead of time, we added some values, maybe some questions to ask, and it's very easy to add those. You can add comments, you can auto-populate data. That filing number there was auto-populated, and but really the key feature is that you're going to be able to capture additional data that is outside of SURF or outside of the URRT. You can capture all that information here. The final piece of the application is reporting. Now, reporting is self-contained within iRATE, and because of the needs of the application and the information that was being obtained, a robust reporting engine was needed, and we selected, or Business Objects was selected to accomplish this. Business Objects will allow each state or territory to be able to add, change, or schedule reports to go along according to their needs or their rules and regulations. Business Objects was selected because it will provide much-needed flexibility, and like I mentioned earlier, each one of the states or territories will be able to build their own reports. Right now, the AID has 4 reports, but there are more that's coming. We're in development of those. And I want to show you one of the reports, the Rate History by Company report. And we'll show you how easy it is to play around with these reports and to adjust them. Currently, this is a report that's just going to show the entire rate history by a company, but we've set it up to be able to have the begin and end dates modified. There are other values that you could select as well, but we're just going to play around with the beginning and end date. So you can see we're going up or down per month based on our little toggle keys up there. So you select your begin month, and then you can enter your end date. And let's say we'll use today. And then when you're ready to run a report, you click Run Query. And all the data will be listed for you there. It looks like there's one of 10 pages. As you can see at the bottom, you can see along the left side, it's broken down by company name. So if you're just interested in John Alden Life Insurance Company, you could scroll down and click on that, and you would just see John Alden. And you see we've got the Arkansas Insurance Department logo and their header there. These can also be customized for your individual state or territory's style and letterhead, so that can be adjusted. You can also, any of these reports can be exported, saved, or printed based on your needs, and you can scroll over and we can see how you can do that. You can export it. You see you've got different options that you can export to. So the reporting feature is a key piece to the application, and like I mentioned earlier, it is still being enhanced. We're still developing reports, and there will be more and more reports added as we go, but these were the most critical at the time. So we're going to close down the report section, and this is going to conclude the information about the iRATE application. We've walked through the filings, we walked through search, we walked through the rate analysis where we looked at the historical company filings and the historical industry filings. We looked at the URRT, and we also looked at how easy it is to add and modify additional data that needs to be captured in this application, and we also looked at the reporting feature. So we're going to go back to the PowerPoint, and we're going to look at what's next. A lot of people, we've had conversations with a lot of states in the last month or so, and folks are wanting to figure out what are the next steps, what do I need to do to take advantage of iRATE. The first thing that needs to happen, and I believe there are a lot of states that have this, there are some that don't, but the first thing that needs to happen is each state or territory must have SURF access. The second thing is AFMC will work with your state to complete a hosting assessment. There are 3 options available to hosting. AFMC can host temporarily, we can host permanently, or your state can host. And when we go through that assessment and look at your needs and look at the requirements that your state has, we'll be able to answer those through the assessment. We'll also have some agreements that we'll be reviewing and going over. And then also I want to mention there are future upgrades coming. I mentioned at the beginning of the webinar that we are working on upgrades or enhancements now, but additional functionality is scheduled. Some of these include plan management, statistical analysis like MLR, like I mentioned loss ratio earlier, but MLR will be coming later. And then also coming in the future is going to be incorporation of the actuarial memorandum. There's still a lot of work that is currently being done and that it will be done in the future regarding iRATE. So what you see today will be changing as we add and include new functionality. And finally, if a state or territory chooses to use iRATE, AFMC will be able to provide training to familiarize yourself with the application and its use. We'll also be able to work with your IT department to assist them in setup or development if need be. One of the features of iRATE is you'll be able to customize certain things and customize your reporting is one of the features. So if your IT department would like assistance in developing some additional reports that are specifically required for your state, we can definitely do that. And also, iRATE can be customized as states have different needs. We'll be able to work with you to identify those requirements and come up with a solution that's going to work best in your state or territory. So that is iRATE. We hope you guys enjoyed what you saw today. But now we're at the point that I want to open it up for Q&A. Like I mentioned earlier, everyone is muted right now, and you have 2 ways that you can ask a question. You can raise your hand, like I mentioned earlier, or you can also use the chat function. So if you want to raise your hand and are ready to ask a question, please do so at this time, and we'll get started with that section of the presentation.
Molly White had a question regarding, is the deemer date something that other states can customize to correlate to their state laws?
Like I mentioned just a couple minutes before, depending on the needs of each state, that values can be customized, and in this case, deemer date is one of those that can be customized, yes. That is a setting that's built into the application that we can easily adjust.
Next question, Megan Mason asked, due to the fact that there are known future updates, what is the best time for a state to start into dialogue about getting iRATE up and running?
I think the best time would be now. As you know, after we leave the webinar today, reach out to us. We'll reach out to you. On that last slide, you will see there's a web address, afmc.org/iRATE, or also iRATE@afmc.org is the email address. Don't hesitate to email us and we can get started with those conversations immediately.
I don't think anybody should wait for those updates to get in place. We have a fully functioning, very well-designed system here, and you would lose a lot of months of productivity if you waited for all the upgrades. The upgrades are going to be being developed over the next year and a half, and iRATE's being released now for the states and territories to use now with a great amount of functionality.
The updates that are being implemented now are specific to I say they're not specific to the AID, but they are specific to needs of the AID. So if you would like to have certain enhancements that are specific to your state, it would be important just to get that ball rolling now. So reach out to us, and we can get those. We can start the requirements analysis and start going down the process of implementing that solution for your state.
Next question is from David Sky. What is the nature of the agreement? Describe the financial commitment. How do states that agree to iRATE get involved in the future development? E.g., doesn't SURF have an advisory board?
SURF does have an advisory board. SURF has given, I think they're on board with the development that we have going here. In terms of the agreements, they are more so user agreements. Those are things that we can get into when we start those discussions. We can also discuss costs associated with that. I do want to mention that the application that you see today is free. Now, if there are specific customizations that need to take place, there is a charge for those. Depending on hosting decisions, things like that, there could be a charge there. But in terms of funding for these, Cycle 2 rate review grant funds can be used for any costs associated with iRATE. But I think the key thing is that iRATE itself is free. It was developed with federal funds, so it is free to users, or free to states as it is today. And territories, I'm sorry, thank you.
From Megan, again, also asked, if you start, set up, and customize now, what would the process be once the updates come on? Would there be a charge down the road for these additional updates?
No, there would not be.
Okay. So Giselle Mario asked, can you talk about the applicable fees?
I don't want to talk about them here, Sol. We can get on the phone after this and have discussions about the fees.
Jacob Lawton asked, if a state has not received any grants, would they still be eligible to utilize iRATE?
Oh, yes, definitely. Definitely. You don't have to utilize rate review or grant funds to utilize iRATE.
Martin Emanuel asked, how many states are using iRATE now?
Well, specifically, we developed this for the Arkansas Insurance Department. They are the only ones using it now, but today is basically the rollout to the rest of the United States and territories. So I anticipate that once we leave the webinar today, that we're going to be receiving a lot of interest from states, and we're going to be implementing it around the country.
Martin also asked, what, if any, costs are required to use this product?
Like I mentioned a couple minutes ago, Martin, if there were specifics related to customization, there could be some charges there. Also, depending on hosting, the hosting agreement that's made, there would be some charges there. But as it sits, the application itself is free of charge and free to be used by any state or territory out there.
Deborah Mayes has a question on the line.
So, Deborah, we're going to mute you.
I have to say it.
Unmute. Go ahead.
Okay, Deborah, go ahead.
I'm wondering how the information from the URRT gets into the iRATE system. Because currently we have to download those files one at a time.
What I would like, I'm Sven from AFMC, the lead developer. What we currently do is we have the filer attach the actually finalized XML file that gets generated from the URRT into SURF, and we take it from SURF, from the support documents, and basically load it into our data warehouse.
So does it need to be filed under the supporting documentation tab?
Correct, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kevin Dyke has a question. Go ahead, Kevin.
Oh, sorry, we were on mute here. I just posted it to the Q&A. So, assuming no customization, when is the quickest that iRATE could be implemented?
The quickest that iRATE could be implemented, that would be with AFMC hosting the application. We'd want to sit down with you and talk about, certain things, but it's a pretty quick turnaround. I think we could have you in, probably sometime in July to get you up and running. So there's a pretty quick turnaround with getting it up. And when I say July, I'm talking early July.
2013.
Yes, of 2013. Yes.
Are we like? I think everybody should realize that the first thing you need to do is to fill out the assessment form if you're interested in going forward. And that way, Neil and Sven and AFMC will know how to answer these questions about how long it would take for what your particular needs are or what you're wanting to do. They are geared up to interface with any state or territory that wants to explore using this. So the quicker you get that assessment in, and they know what each state or territory wants to do, the quicker this whole process can go.
And when we talk about doing an assessment, I think a lot of that's going to need to be some communication between AFMC and your state, and include some of your IT staff to talk about some of the needs and some of the discussion. If we can come up with a solution now, a permanent solution now, it would be probably in best interest of everybody. But we would want to sit down and kind of have some of those discussions to make sure that everybody's on the same page and everybody, or that we come up with the best solution for your state or territory.
I think also, Neil, it might be good to tell the folks that for those who do not know who AFMC is, Arkansas Foundation for Medical Care has been in business for over 25 years, has a very large staff, has a history of doing business with federal agencies, is very well thought of, very credible, and I've found it a joy to work with these folks, and I know you will too. So I would encourage you to get in contact with them. You have all the contact information. Oh, I forgot to mention they are a nonprofit.
All right. And Martin Emanuel also had another question. Finally, brief highlight the benefits of this product versus just using SURF.
Well, I think one of the key things of the application is you've got all your data in front of you, rather than have to jump around to a bunch of different areas. You've got it all in front of you. We're incorporating the URRT in an easy to read, easy to view, an easy to view interface. You have data that you can compare. Like we saw on the rate analysis section, I can compare the filing that I'm looking at with filings from that same company and filings from across the industry with that TOI and sub-TOI. I think that's the big key. I will no longer be looking at a filing by itself. I can compare it to other filings out there. The reporting is a key feature. The ability to customize reports, and also the ability to customize the application. When we showed the custom list, you can capture any data that you would like it's saved with the filing. You can report on that information. You can include that information with information from the other parts of SURF. You can build reports that truly have meaning and truly have value, and you would save all the information that you've collected all in one place. So if you need to go back in the future and do research for a filing 2 years ago, you have all this data rather than having a paper document stored here, a paper document stored here, and trying to gather all that information together. It's all saved in iRATE in the data warehouse. So there are many features, many benefits to iRATE.
Sarah Womack has a question. Is there a list of future enhancements and projects timing?
I wouldn't necessarily say we've got the timeline fully fleshed out. There's been some drafts going back and forth, but nothing has been finalized. But we do have direction that we are heading. And some of the things that haven't been finalized are currently in development, so that should tell you that we are not messing around, and we're moving forward with adding functionality to the application.
We're actively going to be doing a newsletter so that we can give everybody regular reports on what's happening.
And I think if you look to Lowell Nicholas, and you're a part of some of his emails and listservs that go back and forth, you'll be able to stay in the loop on a lot of those things. And also, if you go to the afmc.org/iRATE or email us at irate@afmc.org, like you see on your screen, you'll be in contact with our development team in Arkansas, and we'll be able to keep you informed as well.
Sarah also asked if there's a list of current application customization options.
Well, currently, right now, there are, I highlighted 3 of them. That was and I'm trying to look at my notes. You've got the minimum loss ratio. That was the one I highlighted that was 80%. You've got your max overall rate impact, and then days until deemed approved. Those are the 3 that we've got set now. If we need to customize that based on your state, if you have another value, based on if you have certain needs and we need to build a setting based on that, we can definitely do that. So there are, if you need customization, we can work with you to make that happen.
I think that the very best thing that we could tell you today is, if you take the program as is and use it, and you don't like it, we'll give you your money back.
All right, next question is from Lance McKay. What would be an IT department's responsibility with regards to implementation of iRATE?
You know, it could be as much or as little as you'd like. If depends on the hosting discussion. If AFMC hosts it, your IT department doesn't have to do anything. If your state hosts it, your IT department would be responsible for server maintenance. They would be responsible for business continuity. They would be responsible for ensuring that the application's up and running. If AFMC hosts that, all the burden is shifted onto AFMC, and we take care of that for you. So your IT staff can continue to monitor the systems and applications that you currently have. We have staff on hand that is managing and monitoring these systems and these applications, and we have built-in business continuity processes that are in place today, that's in place with our current business, that complies with FSMA guidelines. So we are fully prepared to be able to handle and host this application on the AFMC side.
Okay, we have a question from Carol Chio. Go ahead, Carol.
She unmuted.
Carol, you have to unmute on your side as well. Okay, we'll go on. The next question, also from Lance McKay, was, is this primarily used for examiners?
I guess it would be primarily used by reviewers, those that are within each state that are reviewing filings as they come in and working to approve or deny or work with the insurance company to come up with a valid rate. So it's basically primarily used by regulators, actuaries inside your state.
It's also designed to give short summary report to senior management in the different departments so that they don't have to wade through anything. And it's just an automated product that's very analytical and user-friendly, I might add.
Okay, the last question from Lance McKay is this totally web-based?
Yes, it is.
Another question from Sarah Womack, is there a feature to capture comments in the filing?
Yes, that's in the custom list section. As we looked earlier, we had pre-built a custom list with any value that you wish to capture. You can capture that data, but you can also set it up to capture comments. So if there are comments related to a certain value, you can capture that information, or if you just want a comment section, you can capture that information. One of the kind of along those lines is one of the reports that the Arkansas Insurance Department has is it captures a narrative value that is put on a report that's sent to the insurance commissioner. So as the reviewers here on staff perform their review, they summarize the information, they capture it in the comment field, and then a report was built to display that information. So that information is delivered to the insurance commissioner, where at that point a decision is made to approve or deny. Any comment can be captured. Any information can be captured that's outside of SURF that's outside of SURF. So any of that information can be captured and saved. And the benefit of this custom list is that information is saved forever. You can always go back and review that information. It's reportable. If you just want to go look at the filing, it's there, but all that information is available to you forever.
Okay, next question, Sarah Womack asked, you mentioned zero value show for items not reported. Is there a way to know the difference between the not reported and a zero value?
One more time.
You mentioned a zero value show for items not reported. Is there a way to know the difference between not reported and a $0 value?
Was it entered? That's the whole thing. If it got entered in the first place by the carrier with the reports.
If
I would assume zero if it is. But if they entered zero, they see zero. So what's the difference? That's what she's asking.
At this point, it's going to show zero. That might be something that we include going forward to put maybe not applicable or something like that. So right now, if nothing's entered, it is going to show zero, and we might look to that to display something, a dash or not applicable if a value doesn't exist.
There are no more questions in the queue.
That was for the
How many people you still got on?
We've got 71 people still attending.
Are there any additional questions? Do we want to go back to Carol and see if we can get her? Carol, we're going to unmute you now. So if you are ready.
Yes. By the way, this is Ali Zakir Shahrak. We are from California Department of Insurance.
Hey,
and hi. I had a question about this type of insurance. In the SURF, companies there is not much standardization about what type of insurance companies should include when they do a filing, say for their health filings that specifically we review in our section. And I was wondering if any effort has been made or is going to be made regarding creating guidelines about the uniform guidelines that both companies and regulators should follow about what type of insurance to put for which kind of filing?
I think if I understood correctly, is what happens if an insurance company misqualifies or misclassifies, excuse me.
It happens most of the time that because we haven't been paying much attention to type of insurance up to this point. Yeah.
Okay. I think the key thing would be is we would need to work with our...
You can't change the type of insurance. You'll have to withdraw the filing and refile. At this time, you cannot change the type of insurance once it's being submitted.
Okay. Roz, did you hear that? Roz Minor with the Arkansas Insurance Department says that you cannot change a TOI once it's been entered. You must...
Probably, we'll work with the insurance company, and you probably have to withdraw the filing and resubmit it under the correct TOI.
Withdraw and resubmit. There's nothing that can be done on the iRATE side if there was a misclassification. It's something that you've got to work with your insurance, the insurance company, to correct.
Thank you.
Got to be corrected, sir.
Yep.
Molly, you've asked a question, but I cannot unmute you. I'm not sure that you're dialed into the teleconference. You'll have to type in your question if you have a question. That is for Molly White. She says she is on the telecom, but I have no phone. I'm sorry, Molly. The next question, nope, that's all.
We can give Molly a couple minutes to type that question in, Molly, so we'll work with you here. I do want to remind everyone that before the meeting today, it was probably about 9:30 today, an email should have been, or was sent out to all those that had registered at that point. And it was basically a reminder about the webinar today, but it also included a link to the iRATE user manual, and it included the agenda for today, but I think the key piece of that would be the iRATE user manual. So everything that we went over today is located in that manual. If you did not get the reminder, it's also at afmc.org/iRATE. It is on the right-hand side of the page, and you'll be able to look at it and view it and get the manual.
This little necklace, I would encourage any of you that are interested to go ahead and fill out the AFMC assessment. There's no obligation, and you're gonna get additional information and get any questions that you may have answered on a direct one-on-one basis. Neil, to get to that assessment, do we need to email that back out again, or what? Your assessment form.
We will email that back out to everybody.
Okay.
Or those that have not already completed it. So expect to see an assessment coming out in the next few days, and then fill that out, and you can return that back to us. It's real fast. It'll probably take you less than 5 minutes to fill it out.
Okay, Molly's question is it correct to assume the industry does not see the iRATE? They see SURF, but iRATE is just for regulators.
That is correct.
Another question from Molly. Can users access iRATE from any computer with web access, like as we see with SURF?
You can access it from anywhere as long as your state policies allow you to.
Okay.
So if your state allows you to access your network remotely, you'll be able to access iRATE as well.
Next question from Molly. How do we get this assessment? Is that in the manual?
We will be sending that out this week. We'll send out the link, and you will have that this week.
There are no more questions.
Okay. Well, everyone, I want to thank you for taking the time today to attend the iRATE webinar. I hope you've been pleased with what you've seen today. And hold on, I think we have one more question before I close up.
Kelly Winsing asks, is there any way to use iRATE to be objections and responses?
Not at this point. Not at this point.
Or no more questions?
All right. Well, folks, I do thank you for taking time out of your day to attend the webinar. Like I mentioned earlier, it will be recorded, and we'll be able to send that out, so you'll have all this information to listen to again. So I want to thank you for taking time out of your day. We appreciate you, and we will be in touch with you guys once again. You can always reach us at afmc.org/iRATE. That'll have the user manual, but you can also email us at irate@afmc.org. We appreciate your time today. Thank you very much.